We're really delighted to welcome the Otolith group to Fabrica with their new work, I See Infinite Distance Between Any Point and Another. This new piece, which centres on Adnan, a Lebanese-American poet, and her relatively new poem, The Sea, really captures the essence of Fabrica as a contemplative space.
This new work, at its simplest, is a kind of study of Adnan reading one of her latest poems, which is called Sea, which is a 58-page poem that she published in 2011, which is a kind of a meditation on a kind of materialist, it's a kind of materialist reading of the sea. She's an 87-year-old poet based in Paris, who lived for many years in the United States and who's taught philosophy and has taught literature. And I'd say she's one of the most important living poets. So Jean-Luc Godard said one of the most important things and one of the most difficult things a film can do is show somebody reading. How do you show somebody reading? It's a question. Hollywood tends to avoid it. It's supposed to be boring. So the challenge here is to show a poet reading her work. And this is the challenge of the poem, and the challenge of the film is when cinema encounters poetry, how does cinema envision a poetic encounter? And the challenge is to stay with the poem, not to cut away to poetic images of the sea or poetic images of the sky or the countryside, not to illustrate the poem, but to stay with the concentration. In other words, to concentrate on the gestures and expressions of concentration that the poet herself brings to the work. So in this sense, the film is a study in constraint. There's a dialectic relation between the concentration, constraint, and limits of the film and the kind of imaginative unfolding that is implied by the film. In other words, in order to show something unfolding and opening, you have to go via an image of closure and concentration. And this is what we try to achieve.
The second element of our spring exhibition is a new work by Invisible Flock called Sea of Voices. They've been working really closely with local arts organisation Blast Theory, who are part of the commissioning partnership and who've been providing residency facilities and also providing an opportunity for Invisible Flock to just draw on their vast experience of making technologically focused work in really complex public spaces.
The work is an interactive piece. It's a walk from Fabrica down to the seafront and then along the seafront all the way up to the marina. And it's an audio work. As you walk, you listen, but you also find points where there are 3 telescopes along the seafront, and you can stop and look through those telescopes, which have augmented reality overlays on them. And then when you get down to the marina itself, there is a buoy moored off the shore, and you can send messages with your mobile phone out to that buoy, and those messages are then communicated by Morse code out to the wider world. It's an application that you download onto your smartphone, and that gives you an opportunity to interact with the audio, that you can listen, and you can jump ahead, jump backwards, you can choose when to interact with certain experiences. And I think it's a reflection on the coast and the sea. It's an opportunity to step out of daily life for a second and just walk. You know, Brighton is packed with people thronging the promenade throughout the year. It's one of the sort of lovely aspects of Brighton life to be able to stroll along the promenade. But I think it's a really nice development to take that idea and give it an artistic frame and give yourself a reason for walking, but also an even greater sense of freedom that you for an hour or so you have nothing else to worry about than what's coming into your ears, and just following this little sort of breadcrumb trail along the seafront. So I think it's an opportunity to kind of relax and reflect, to listen, to look, and to just have these things threaded into a very sort of intimate and quiet experience that brings you to a particular moment of sending something out as the culmination of that work.
The third element of our spring exhibition is an artist residency. We're working with Brighton-based poet Maria Jaschenska. Maria is a person who came to England as a child. She was originally born in Warsaw in Poland, and borders, whether they're kind of psychological or internal borders, as well as very literal borders, national borders, have been a part of her work and a concern for her personally for all the way through her life. The residency programme that Maria is a part of is something that we've been developing over a number of years. It's where we ask an artist to work with the theme of the exhibition and respond to it in a way that's appropriate to their practice. There's no requirement to produce a piece of work. All we ask is that the artists share their thoughts and their interactions with the audience.
I'm going to be exploring some questions about borders, crossing the seas that any of us need to cross to get where we want to be, how we change in that process, what we lose, what we gain. I'm going to be exploring those kinds of questions. I'm a poet and I'm also a communicator. I like to engage with people, I like to talk to people, and I'm going to set up a conversation whereby I'm going to ask members of the public, anybody, everyone, yourself included, to respond to 3 questions. And I'm not looking necessarily for literal answers, although they could be. You can respond as freely as you want. You can respond as poetically or not as you want. And the 3 questions I've chosen are: where'd you come from? What's the purpose of your visit? And do you have anything to declare? If you're in the gallery right now, then you can respond here and now, and the volunteers will show you how to do that, and that would be great. If you're wanting to respond later, or if you're seeing this on the website, you can respond by going on Fabrica's website, going on my blog, and responding that way.
The starting point for this exhibition and the 2 major commissions was a project called the Boat Project by Lone Twin. The Boat Project is one of 12 major commissions that are happening across the UK to celebrate London 2012, the Cultural Olympiad.
About 11 years ago now, we started to talk to each other about this idea that we'd build a boat, and that in doing that we'd sort of engage people in some way. We'd done a lot of projects where we were looking at how sort of the world's human geography is decided upon by water. You know, that well, we're here in Brighton today, and Brighton's here because the sea's here, but all cities grow up around rivers. The only exceptions to that are the Vatican and Las Vegas. And water gives us a land's human geography. Where we are is because of water. And we'd made all of these projects that somehow sort of looked at those sorts of things. Then we started thinking about boats, how boats had opened up the world and had introduced us to sort of, you know, we thought we were alone on the world until there were boats and we could go somewhere else and meet other people. And we saw boats, we started to think of boats as a sort of, the idea of a boat being the sort of catalyst for making other things happen. For the last year in Emsworth, which is sort of westward, about an hour away, we've been building this boat, and we've been building it from pieces of wood that members of the public have brought to us, have donated to us, have gifted to the project. And we put a call out. We asked for this wood, and we asked. We said we would take anything, but it would need to have one stipulation, which would that it'd have a story behind it somehow. It'd be something that had lived with you, perhaps not for a very long time, although some of these items have been in people's families for years and years and years, but it would be a part of your life in some way, and that you would come, you'd give us the item, you'd also sort of tell us the story. We'd collect both things, we'd record the story by sort of interview, we'd take the object, and from those objects we would build this boat, which is a sort of 30-foot state-of-the-art yacht, a sort of quite incredibly beautiful modern sports boat. So the boat's launched on the 7th of May in Thornham Marina, which is basically just out of Emsworth, and Thornham Marina is part of the Chichester Harbour. So we launched there, and we do a couple of things to begin with, but eventually, come the end of May, as you say, the 19th of May, she will appear around about lunchtime, hopefully, you know, wind permitting, along the coast here, and she'll arrive with a flotilla. From Shoreham she arrives with a flotilla, so local boats, all sorts of craft coming along here, and then we eventually tie up in the marina. And then there's loads of events throughout. So that last week of May, well, it's basically the last week of the Brighton Festival. So there's all sorts of events happening. There's the exhibition, there's events next to the boat, there's performances happening on and around the boat. You can visit the boat, you can meet us. There's a series of pieces that sort of take to the streets of Brighton and invoke the old Victorian bathing machines and things. So there's a number of things happening through the festival, also in the Fringe Festival, and elsewhere through the city, which sort of talk to the boat project in some way, or are commissioned in response to it, or explore the themes of it. And then there's actually the boat here and stuff happening on the boat. So there's a huge sort of array of things happening here, and that's replicated along the coast basically. We spend the summer moving around, and this sort of bespoke festival of events sort of follows us.